Hi there, Jamie Keat here today at Teachers Tech. Hope you're having a great day today. Today I'm taking a look at GIMP. So this is going to be a tutorial for GIMP for beginners to introduce you to this. This is a image editor program, cross-platform, so it's going to be good for your Windows, Mac, or Linux systems. This is a great Photoshop alternative if you're looking at doing maybe some digital painting or photo editing. I do have a different video that go through different options for Photoshop alternatives. I'll put the link down below in the card above if you're looking at a few other options that might be better for digital painting or maybe just more simple than GIMP here, but GIMP is a very powerful program. So we're going to walk through this today. I have everything time-stamped down below so you can see all the different things that I'll be going through today, and you can jump to different parts of the video. So let's start this beginner tutorial on GIMP today. If you're wondering where to get GIMP, just go to gimp.org and you'll see the page here. Remember, this is completely free. Go to downloads over here, and then you're just going to be able to pick one of these that you want. For myself, I just did a download directly from GIMP, but you can choose what's the best for you to download. Once it's downloaded, just go through the install on your computer and then you'll be ready to go from there. I'll put the link to gimp.org down below in the description so you can click on it and it will bring you right to this page. So let's talk a little bit about customization. You can see now my GIMP, I've already changed the look of it and the theme is different. I'm in a light theme, and you can make these quick changes to get something that you like. Just go up to Edit up top and take a look at Preferences. Now I'm only going to point out a couple of things here, but do remember where this is, and then you can go through and make some more adjustments to the way you want things to look once you've played around with GIMP a little bit more. But for right now, I just wanted to show you with the theme if you wanted. So I switched to this light theme or the system theme. You can see as I click on different ones, it's going to change the look. So I can go from light to gray back to my dark one, and when I get what I want, I can just go ahead and hit OK. You'll also notice that there's an icon theme where I can change just by clicking on these. I can adjust the look here. The other thing I just wanted to point out was that you can change the size. So maybe you have really tiny icons in your toolbox here. Just make sure this is under custom icon size, and then what you can do is go ahead and change. So you can see if I was back to small with my resolution of my computer, how tiny that would be, but I just move it over all the way to huge. So take a look, even your customization of the toolbox, which I'll talk about a little bit more. You have all the things that are shown up in it, but you can turn, maybe you notice that you're not going to be using certain ones, you can turn them off or you can turn more on. So if I wanted, for example, this on, you click beside it the eye and now it's on my toolbox on it, or you can turn ones off just like this. But wait till you know what you're using a lot, and then you can customize things the way you like. The last thing I just wanted to point out for this is under window management, you can go ahead and save a preset so it'll remember how you have everything, and then you can always go back by clicking this and it will reset it, but you do have to close the program and open it up again. Just a couple other things about this: you can stretch out the looks of this a bit. So if it's a little tight, you can see how I can stretch this way out. I can do this to both sides. Just get the handle on your mouse and then you can drag over. You can also separate different things. You can move to different sizes to be floating around and to customize just the way you look. And you can always put things back after the way I showed you if you have your saved presets. So I have my customization set. I'm going to go ahead and start with a new composition. Go up to File, New. And you can see right away there's these set sizes already. I have 1280 by 720. These are the perfect dimension if you're making a YouTube thumbnail. That's the optimal size for that. You can still make adjustments through this, whether it's in the advanced options. All these can be preset like I showed you before under Edit and Preferences. So if you go to Edit and Preferences and Default Image, you can set up all these. So if you were doing a lot of YouTube thumbnails and you just wanted to have that right size in here, you could set this up and then hit OK, and then you'd be good to go. Whenever you do hit the OK, the right size would be there. Right now it's under the background color. If I wanted transparency, you can see how I could pick a different one. The background color is just right up here. It's white. That's the background, and the red is the foreground. So I'm going to hit OK, and I have the start of my thumbnail. But for my purposes right away, I'll just be doing some other things on it, just showing you some examples. Now, the first thing I want to show you can quickly change the color if you didn't want it as white. You could use the paint bucket. So the paint bucket is right here. So what the paint bucket does, and right now, if you look underneath any of these tools, when I click on them, it changes down below. These are options to customize each of these tools to get it exactly the way you want. So right now it's just the foreground fill. So my foreground is this red. So if I click over here, it fills the entire thing with red. At any time you can go backwards with Control Z. So if I hit Control Z, it will undo the last step. If I wanted it to, I'll just put it back again. So I click it, it fills it in. I have some other options. So if I wanted to change the color, I could quickly hit OK. And now I have blue, and I click on top of it and it fills all of it to the blue. So I can make these quick adjustments to the background color. Now, let's say though, if I didn't want to fill the entire spot, what I can do is add a selection tool to it. So I could go here and I could go and select an area inside like this. I'll go back to my paint bucket, and then now what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to change to a pattern fill. So I click on here and I'm going to pick a different pattern up here, and I'm going to click, and you can see I filled a pattern inside of that area that's selected. So you can select a certain area with these selection tools up here. So if I go ahead and pick another one and draw the selection, and I go back to my paint bucket, and then I can go ahead and maybe I'll pick another pattern here, and I can drop down from here and I'll click inside here like so. The one thing is the pattern on top of the pattern doesn't feel exactly right because of the way the other pattern isn't this solid color down below. So, but I just wanted to show you how quickly to use some selection tools and the bucket, how you can quickly change your canvas background. So now what I want to do is go over to some brushes. Now I've showed you before how I can go Control Z or Command Z on a Mac to go backwards. You also have the undo history. Now I can go back in time at any point, or even jump ahead back to where. So if I want to just go back to a certain point, just click, and then I can start from there. So let's say if I wanted, actually I'm going to create a brand new canvas. So I'm going to have two different ones, File, New, and I'm going to leave it the same. And what I wanted to show you now with these tabs up top, I have the two different ones right here. I have this canvas over here. You can see the history and everything, and this brand new one that doesn't have any history because I've just created it, and I can switch back and forth between the two of them. Now I showed you the paint bucket here before, and I just wanted to point out these tools more through here. So like a brush allows me to brush and draw in a certain area. And remember, if I double click, it opens up all the properties down below here, all the different options that I have that I can play with and adjust from size through here. If I wanted it a lot larger, you can see I have it a lot larger, and I can change the color just like I did before. If I wanted it something like a green, and you can see I can make a change here. I can always Control Z, go back. I have an eraser right beside here that I can click and I can erase with, and the eraser will be the same as the brush that I just used with when I was painting. The other thing with the brush here too, I have all these brushes. If you look under this right here, I have all these different brushes, these presets that are saved. So if I click, these are brushes. I can click once to do something, or I could drag it around. So there's lots of fun things to do with brushes. Remember all the customization down below. And also with these tools, we have our pencil here. If I go back to my normal, take a look at the different sizes and everything. Try out different ones to see how they all look. We have our pencil, we have an airbrush, and we have an ink tool that does different things. And go through and just try them, draw on a canvas, create new canvases, undo, and you're gonna, if you're an artist, you'll be able to create some great works. All this, when we have this selection tool, so like I showed you before, inside when we're dropping the paint bucket, it's the same thing. So if I have a selection tool like this, and if I go to try to draw, if I try to draw on the outside, I'm going to change the color so you can see it. So if I have it like this, so if I try to draw over here, I can't. I can only draw inside the selection tool. So you can see right now I've defined the area that I want to work in. So even the brushes and all these different tools work that way. So that's just a little intro into our brushes through here and selection, making some shapes. Now I want to kind of go into some layers and bringing in some other graphics to work with. All right, so what I want to do now is create a YouTube thumbnail for this video, and it's going to be a simple one, but I'm going to show you a few more tools that will apply to different ways that you can apply using GIMP. So I'm going to go ahead and go File, New, and I'm going to go ahead and hit OK because I know that's the right size for my YouTube thumbnail that I talked about before. I'm also going to go File, Open, and I'm going to open this logo here from GIMP. Now, if I was putting this over, just to point out something, and this isn't the way I'm going to do it, but any of these ones, if you right click, you have all the options that come up, and I could go cut or copy and go over to this one and paste it onto this, and it's going to create a floating layer over here before I make adjustments to it. But what I like to do is go File, Open as a layer, and then bring it in. And you can see now I have this layer on top of the background. So what that does for me, if I click on the background, so whatever one I'm going to click on or adjust, I'm going to select. If I wanted to change the background now, and I go to my paint bucket and I click on this, now I have the background selected. It just changed the background. It didn't change the GIMP logo. So if I go back, I'm going to undo this now. I'll just Control Z. And then I'm going to go to just this top layer now. I'm going to start making a few other changes. And the first one I want to do is make it smaller. So I'm going to scale it. So I'm going to click the scale button. And when I click it, I get these handles that I can quickly make things smaller. And this is a move tool over here, this one. And I can bring it to a situation to where I would like. So let's say if I wanted to make sure it was completely centered on the background here, what I can do is use this tool, which is the Align tool. When I select this, what you need to do though is left click on this. So when I left click on this, now you get these handles. I can use the Align. So I want it to be relative to the first item, which is the background. And now if I align to center, it does that. So that could save you time. You could eye it and get it the way you want, but do remember the Align tool is a handy little tool just to get things all straightened up. The other thing you can do, you can rotate here. So if I use the rotate tool, and now if I go ahead and click on it, I can click like so and rotate the corners. I can even turn the rotation point. So if I wanted, now if I rotate it, it's going to rotate on the rotation point down here. So I'm just going to go back a couple steps here by just using Control Z. And now, so I have two layers. I have my logo centered, and I just want to write something simple. Maybe it'll be like beginner's tutorial on this one. And I'll probably adjust things more after this tutorial, but this is just to show you how I'd get started with it. If I go now, if I click on the text tool, I'm going to draw a text box in here, and I'm just going to write in here. So I'll just put beginners. Should I keep it simple here? Let's go. Yeah, I'll just keep it like this for now, and I'll make some adjustments. You can see now with it, I can alter the color if I did want it. Maybe I wanted it more black. I can adjust it. I can change the size of this. So if it did stretch out, you can grab the handles here and make this make these larger. So you can stretch this out to make this fit. You can here, if you knew what type of font you want, if you wanted to change it after, I could look in here. So if I was looking for any of these, I'll go back a step here. You can see how the list comes back as I'm typing through here, and it makes the changes through here. Also through here, if I click on this, you can see the list of different fonts that I can just kind of scroll through and see all the different names that are available to it. So again, I'm not going to make this perfect for now. I'll make more changes. I can go and make my adjustments with the move tool on this one. But like I said before, I can use my align tool, and I want it based on first item. If I left click on this one, so go to my align tool and left click, and then I can go and align it. The one thing to watch for, it's aligning it based for how long this is. So you might want to go back and adjust the size of this to get it a little tighter so that it's going to be centered where it's the same on both. Because now if I go to the align tool and left click on it, you can see there's more adjustment to it. So a lot of these are going to be the basic functions of this. You're going to bring in a text. You could change the background with colors. You could add a pattern to it. You can even add things if you want to add maybe a drop shadow to the text. If you got to make sure that you're on this one on the right layer, and then you can go filters, and you can see all the different options that you can have. That will just apply to it. So if we're looking under, we'll just go with a custom one, and then I'm going to change it after. But if I just was pick this one, you can see how it quickly changed just the effect on there. But you can go and check all the different filters that you'll have. And like I said, there's ones like drop shadow. You just have to go through the list and seeing all the different ones, and it will apply to the layer. So if you're making any text, make sure it's on that separate layer. When you're done this, what you can do is go File. You could save it if you wanted to come back later. If you saved it, what's going to happen is going to save it as a GIMP file. But if you wanted to use it for YouTube, you'd want to save it as a PNG or a JPEG. So then you'd want to export it. So if you export it, you can see here's the PNG, and I could give it a name I'll just call this thumb here. And I could pick where I wanted it for places. I could create a folder on this one. You can see that's going to work for me with a PNG on it. And I can just go ahead and export it. And I'll go through a few more options and export it. And then I have this thumbnail that I can upload to YouTube. So that's just going through a few more options that you have within GIMP and the tools. Before we get into photo editing, I just wanted to do a little bit more with showing a couple of tools and talk a little bit more about layers. And then one tool I just wanted to mention that can give some really good effects, it is the gradient tool. So with the gradient tool, it's right here, and right now it's set to foreground to background. You can see it's a blue to white, and what that is if I drag across, you can see this is a gradient, and I can hit enter, and I have it going from white to blue. So that's from the option that it has chosen. Now I can make different changes to this. So if I wanted it in a different mode, or let's say we'll drop down if I wanted it more square. You can see now as I adjust this, it becomes more of a straight line down here, and it changes. It's not your typical from linear. And they have all these different options. If I go down the list, you can see now we have radial. And if I go, I'll hit enter, and you can see how it adjusts to the circular. I can make some changes to these. You can see the different options that we have as I go through and have the different options, and it just changes on this one. So the gradient can add a nice effect to maybe your backgrounds. The other thing I just wanted to mention too, with the gradients, if you added a certain shape first or a selection area, so if you have the selection area, you can do the gradient inside of there also. So if I put it inside there, you can see now it's bound by the selection area. Now with layers, I just wanted to mention to this, and I'm going to create a new document for this one. With the layers, if we're creating a new layer, so let's say if I was just going to create some, I have this background down below, I'm going to just hit this plus right here to create a new layer, and it's just going to be, I'm going to call this layer 1 here, and I'm going to put something on this. So I'm just going to put a square here. And I'm going to fill a rectangle, and then I'm going to fill this in with a color just by clicking up. I have pattern selected, but that will work. And I'm going to create another layer here, and I'll just call this one 2. Hit OK. And now I'm going to have another selection here. I'm just going to put a selection, and I'm going to do my fill again, and I'm going to do just this. So now I have these 2 different ones. These are on different layers. So notice this blue one is on top of the pattern, the brown pattern. Down below, I can change the order. So if I go up and moved it up, now this one is on top of it. So I can alter the layers. If I'm moving different ones around, if I'm moving, notice I'm on the number 1 layer that I'm moving. And if I go to here, layer 2, then I'm moving this one here, so they're all separated. So I just wanted to point out how you can move layers around and start them from scratch down below, just so that if you're starting off with GIMP, make sure you use layers to organize your work to get some better results. All right, so I just want to show you quickly some of the tools that you can do some photo editing inside GIMP. And I'm going to start with the healing tool. So it's right over here. It looks like some band-aids. I'm going to go ahead and click on this. So how this works is that you're going to go over a certain area that's kind of close to close to where the blemishes are, but where it's clear. So in this case, I'm going to go really close to about here. I'm going to hold down Control and click my mouse. And then it selects from that area, and then I can rub over it and it's taken. So now what I'm going to do is maybe take from this area, and so it's taking from similar shades. I'll work down from this one, take this, and you can see as the face starts to clear up just by keep on clicking Control, and I select it from a certain area. And if I took my time, I probably could do a little bit better job than this, just trying to show you kind of how it works in an example. And now I could always change the size of my brush if I wanted to get more detailed, maybe a smaller brush, or changing the edges and different things. So something you can play with if it's not working quite right. So I just wanted to show you that first, and that's the healing brush. Next is a clone. So what happens in a clone one is if I was taking this area here, I can hold down Control, and it's just going to make a copy of this. So if I go ahead and hold Control, click my mouse, and now it's actually just copying that certain area. So if I was going to say the mouth here, and I was going to put it here, it's just copying the mouth down on it. So that's a complete copy of it. Notice it's all in the same layer. I can't move these around after, but it's just making a complete copy of it. So that's between the healing and the clone, and you can make these adjustments to it if you get more detailed to get a better job done. Now I'm just going to go over to this picture and talk about some other basics of photo editing, and one of the tools that would get used quite a bit would be the crop tool. So the crop tool here, simply just draw it around a certain area, hit enter, and you've cropped the image down, and that's where you can save it or export it to the different file types that you want. And remember, Control Z, just like all the times before, undoes, or you can use the history to get back to certain points. Another tool that I wanted to show you, I'm going to use this as an example here. Let's say if I wanted to select this girl out from the green screen, what I can do is use this one right here. So this tool, the fuzzy select, if I select on the green, it selected the green. She's not selected right now. It's just the green that's selected. You can see that it didn't really select really tight to her hair. So maybe I'd have to change my threshold a bit. And if I click on the green again, it might get a little tighter. I'll move it again. And it should just get a little closer. I might have to go a little further here. And then one way I can do it if I zoom up on a certain area, I'm going to just use the magnifying glass and you hold down Control. What I'm going to try to do now is go back to it, and I'm going to hold down Shift, and I'm going to click on the green in between her hair and see if it gets it. So I'm going to zoom back out again so you can see this. I'm just going to move over. And if I hit delete, you can see kind of what's been taken out. I've deleted the background. She's still there. If you wanted her selected, what you could do is, I'll just undo, is if you go to select, you can invert. So invert now, if I hit delete, you can see that she's taken out of it. So that makes that she was selected. So at this point, what I could do, I can right click, I could go edit, and I could go copy. I have this blank document over here. This is a transparent background that I started. I could right click, I could edit and paste it over here. And remember, there's the move tool if I wanted to move it around. At this point, you can't do anything. It's a floating selection, but you can right click on it and you can go to new layer. And now I can work at it the same way before. If I wanted it smaller, I can scale this down, just like with all the other parts that I showed you before, in moving things around and rotating to create maybe a collage, or I could take a different background and put it in. Like I said, I could do a better job on the green if I spent more time getting more detailed there too. Another good neat feature is to be able to select a certain color out of a picture. So let's say in this one right here, if I wanted to select maybe this red that's in here, this picker tool allows me to kind of suck up that color into my palette. So if I go to this red, click over it, you can see now this is selected here. That becomes my new brush. As an example, I'll just draw right on top of this. And that's it's not always perfect, but it's going to get really close if you're looking for maybe a font color to match a picture, or to take out a certain part. It allows you to pick those colors really, really quickly. So I just touched the surface today of using GIMP. There's so much more it can do. I just wanted to make you feel comfortable getting started with it, playing around with it, maybe doing some photo editing or making something simple like a thumbnail. In the comments below, let me know what do you want to learn in GIMP, and I'll try to make some more tutorials based on those specific requests that you have. So for this week, thanks for watching. Please share with other people. Subscribe to the channel if you're liking what you see, and let me know what you want to learn. I'll see you next time on Teacher's Tech.